Ed Mulholland, thank you so much for joining us here with the Alumni Spotlight for the Rutgers Alumni Association. It's absolutely a pleasure to speak with the Rutgers hat guy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Anything Rutgers related, I am so excited to do.
So when did you graduate from Rutgers and which school?
Rutgers College 93. I have a degree in
Okay.
economics. Yeah.
Economics. And
Economics.
how long did that follow your career path?
Not long at all. So it's interesting. So I actually had gone to Rutgers for engineering, decided it was not for me. I didn't want to do it. Um, I guess you know, nowadays kids take gap years and everything else to figure out what they want to do. We didn't do that. So I went straight to college and I thought I knew what I wanted to do and had no clue of what I wanted to do. And sometimes feel like I still don't know what I want to do, but it's, I came out, I was at college engineering, decided I wanted to do it. It was a little bit late to try and transfer into the business school. So I went to economics, figuring I could get some kind of business background going there. And I came out and I went into sales and marketing for a pharmaceutical corporation, and photography was a hobby. And lo and behold, here I am now. And I'm not going to say I don't use my degree because there is a lot of business that goes in and negotiations and things like that. But yeah, it changed. It changed quickly.
Nobody ever expects where the degree will actually take them.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't I look back at how I got here, and it's just strange, lucky and strange. Yeah.
How'd you end up at Rutgers to begin with?
Um. Well, I mean, living in Jersey, so I played lacrosse in high school. Rutgers lacrosse at the time was very good, so we would go watch games, things like that, and I got to be on campus and see the campus, and I really liked it, and I wanted to play lacrosse at Rutgers, and I ended up playing for the club team at Rutgers because, well, I was a good lacrosse player. I would have been a practice dummy for multiple years on the Division 1 team. I would have been an
Uh,
okay. I would have been a pretty okay Division 3 player, but not a Division 1 player. So I played club there, and got to play all the time and be on the field, and had a great time doing it. So that's kind of what piqued my interest. And at the time, like I said, I was interested in engineering. It was a very good engineering school. So yeah, that's what kind of brought me into Rutgers. There was a couple of schools on my radar, but Rutgers was always kind of my number one. Yeah.
and were there any organizations or experiences that, you mentioned that you got into the photography was a hobby. Were
It
there
was.
any, experiences or anything that kind of started putting you towards that or where you'd eventually end up?
No, it was literally just a hobby. It was something I liked. My dad had a camera. He would be taking pictures. We're not talking like today where everyone's got a camera on them at all times because of their phones. This was film.
Hmm.
But I just liked photography, and it was just a hobby. And um, I did multiple things at Rutgers, but none of which involved photography.
Really?
I wasn't I didn't even like, I wasn't at the Targum and taking pictures where you see students doing things like that. It wasn't even a thought, honestly. Um, it was just something I enjoyed doing, but I never thought about it as a career because I don't think I even realized at the time it could be a career. It was always like it was just different things, but photography was never even in my radar as far as being a career. Yeah.
It's funny to hear you say that, with all the photography behind you, the two Canon lens bodies.
Yeah, those are old ones I gotta sell.
What else did you do at Rutgers?
So I was I guess a big part of my life was I was in a fraternity. I was Sigma Phi Epsilon. I was Sig Ep. Um
Okay.
so yeah, I rushed my freshman year, and I lived in the house from there on out. So I was very involved with the fraternity, and we did a lot of charity things and sports competitions and stuff like that. So yeah, very big part of the Greek life, and um, yeah, it I will say that it changed me, like in a good way. Like I was very now people can't get me to shut up, but I was like pretty quiet, pretty shy, hadn't really come out, and the fraternity brought that out of me, and social life and Greek life, and life at Rutgers in general, just getting involved and kind of breaking out of my shell,
Hmm.
which has helped tremendously with my career. Um, because you definitely I'm freelance, so I have a very good list of clients, but you have to be able to sell yourself, and
Hmm.
and that's kind of where going into business first actually probably helped my career. Yeah.
You're not the first person I meant to bring up Greek life. Fran Rotella, who was an Emmy Award winning part of like the broadcasting area. She mentioned that when she was at Rutgers, she was part of Alpha Phi Omega, and it was like a huge thing for her for like giving her a taste of like that organizational, that networking side
Yeah.
before she actually had to be in that side.
Yeah, I think it did the same for me. And I've made some of my best friends in at Rutgers and at my fraternity. I mean, we still hang out. We have a whole Rutgers text group. I mean, it's just I met my wife at Rutgers at one of our fraternity parties. So like,
Really?
yeah, yeah. So like, and she was in a sorority. She was in Delta Gamma, and so yeah, Liz and I met at a SIGEP party, and yeah, and next year we'll be married 30 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you. It's crazy. Like, so when people say like, man, you represent the university, you're always wearing a hat, you're this, that, I fire back with like, what was so great about Rutgers? And I'm like, my entire life was shaped by Rutgers. Like, I met my wife there. My kids are a result of my wife and I meeting at Rutgers. So, it's not necessarily, it's so much more than the degree or anything like that. Like, my entire life is basically what everything I have is because of meeting my wife at Rutgers and our kids and everything else now. So it's pretty wild. Yeah.
That's
At a,
fabulous.
at a fraternity party. Yeah.
At a fraternity party. Who
Yeah.
knew?
Yeah. Go figure.
So you said you went into business right after Rutgers.
Yes. I worked for
What does
a pharmaceutical corporate.
pharmaceutical?
Yeah. Yeah.
J&J?
No, it was I actually started with a small, like, it was like a Medicare Part B company, and then they got purchased by a company called Omnicare, and
Hmm.
which was based out of Kentucky. And I was doing sales and marketing for them. And doing that, and suit and tie every day, and no tattoos or anything, and all and very very straight laced. But I got to golf a lot, which was great. um so it wasn't really me. I'm more creative, and yeah, I like the social aspect of things, and it was it was fine. It was good. It was a good job. I liked the people I was working with, but at the end of the day, I kind of knew it wasn't me, and
Hmm.
I got this opportunity. Like, I kind of made the opportunity, I guess. While I was working that job, my brother had gotten tickets to a boxing match, and I was a boxing fan. I grew up a boxing fan. I'm a sports fan in general. And I took my camera to the fight, and I took some pictures. And I used to follow boxing online and stuff, and I sent the pictures to a boxing website. It was called fightnews.com. And 2 weeks later, they called me up and they're like, "Hey, the photos look pretty good. Would you ever consider shooting a fight for us?" And I was like, seriously? Like, okay. And 2 weeks after that,
No, absolutely not.
like, right, I get to go to the fight. Cool. And I guess that was my first introduction to, like, well, people pay me for this? Like, okay, cool. Um, so I was in Reading, Pennsylvania. It was a Don King promoted show on Showtime. And I went down there and I took some pictures, and they're terrible. But um, I I did the job. I got paid very, very, very little money. But I had a photo from the post-fight press conference where this Nicaraguan fighter had just won the world title, and he came to the press conference, and it was like, here's this peak of professional athlete, and he has a world championship belt around his waist. He's just won, and he's got a Budweiser in one hand, and he lights a cigarette in the other hand at the post-fight press conference. And he's smoking and drinking as he's answering media questions. And I took this photo, and it ran in Sports Illustrated. So
Really?
from my first assignment ever, I got my first photo in Sports Illustrated, which was crazy. And then and I got paid, and I was like, wow, I could maybe make some money doing this. This is kind of cool. And I started hustling around on weekends in between my real job, doing some local boxing. And then it just kind of went on. And I guess about a year and a half, 2 years after that, I got like a really big break and it just ran from there. Yeah.
Well, what was the big break?
I got a random phone call on a Wednesday afternoon. I could have swore it was a friend pranking me or something, but it was this woman, Jackie Norris, who was the photo editor at HBO. And she called me up and she's like, "We've been watching your work in Ring Magazine for the last couple of years. We love your stuff. Our photographer can't make a show in Atlantic City this weekend. We'd like to offer you a 3 month contract." And they gave me a 3 month contract. And I ran down to Atlantic City that weekend and I shot that fight. And then they flew me to Germany for a fight in Germany. And then they flew me to Vegas for an Oscar De La Hoya fight. And I ended up working for them for 3 months. Meanwhile, taking vacation time and sort of like leaves. I went to my job and I'm like, "Hey, I got this opportunity and I'm not passing on it. Can we work something out?" And they were like, "As long as your clients are happy, we don't care what you do." So I was like, "Okay, great." They were, I mean, fantastic. So I would just jam clients in and service them by phone, and I'd fly somewhere and I'd work 3 or 4 days somewhere else and fly back home. And I did that for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, HBO's like, "Yeah, we want to keep you." And they gave me the Boxing After Dark series, and then it became too much. So it's like, do I want to do this, or do I want to do my career? And and my wife Liz was like, "You're never around. I'm at work all day, and then I'm off somewhere else, like on the weekends." And she's like, "You should just." She's like, "I'd rather see you happy. Just make a choice. I think you should quit your job." And I'm like, "Well, I have a job that pays me, and I have this that I'm starting out at." And she's like, "Look, you're young. Bet on yourself." And I left my job and started doing the HBO thing, which they pay very well, but you only get paid when you're working as you're a freelance, you're a contractor. And at the same time, I got the HBO call. I won my first Boxing Writers Photo of the Year award, and I got a call from Electronic Arts, video game company, and they had seen one of my photos and they licensed it for a cover of a video game. And I was like, I mean, here I go from I go from like, oh, I'm making a couple $100 running to like a little local fight to I'm getting a 5 figure payday for a single photo for a video game cover. And I'm like, wow, you can make some money at this if you're good. So then it was I got to become good. And and again, it's like everything else. The more you're doing something and the more comfortable you get and you see different angles and you try new stuff. And um but this all kind of happened simultaneously. And it was like I left my job, committed to photography. 2 months after I did that, I got a call from ESPN, and they're like, "Hey, we love your boxing stuff. We need someone to shoot some UFC. Do you want to shoot some UFC stuff?" And I was like, "Wow, okay. I don't even really know what UFC is, honestly." It was just kind of it was relatively new. And I started shooting I had shot a couple UFCs for Fight News, and it was like I was still kind of learning, all about it and grappling and different things because I think it's very important to know the sport you're shooting. And so yeah, I started flying around for ESPN then, and it was literally like one weekend I'd be with HBO in LA, and the next weekend I'd be, in Mexico for ESPN, and it was great, it was crazy. And that's kind of how the whole thing developed. And then I got a call from USA Today, and I started shooting other sports and started shooting NHL and NFL and all kinds of stuff. And now I just shoot any sport I can shoot. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
It's why it's a crazy story. It really is.
Uh, it's fabulous. The story of success. So, which makes me I have to ask. So, how did you get the signature always wearing a Rutgers hat?
So I was at Madison Square Garden, and it was my second fight. And so yeah, my second fight I ever covered was at Madison Square Garden. And I'm ringside, and there was this guy, a buddy of mine. He was a writer. He actually, yeah, really good friend of mine. He passed away a couple months ago. His name was Tom Gerbasi, and there was this woman there. They were media members, and there was this woman, Lisa Scott, and one of them made a comment like, "Man, you can always see the Rutgers hat. Like it just stands out ringside. You should wear it all the time." And I never gave it any thought for that. It was just like I just always wore my Rutgers hat. So they put that in my head, and I was like, "Wow, all right, maybe I should just wear the Rutgers hat anyway." And yeah, so I kept it. I just always wore it, and then it kind of came where people would be like, I've had people I've known for years. If I don't have the Rutgers hat on, they walk right past me. Like it's almost like they don't even recognize me. And it's like, especially if like I'm at an awards dinner or something, I'm in a suit with no hat on. They literally just walk past me, and I'm like, "Hey, wait, we've known each other for like 10 years." Like, and they'll be like, "Oh, Ed, oh, I didn't recognize you." So it just became a thing, and I just kind of stayed with it. And like I wear it to just about every event I shoot. There are some clients I have that don't want me to wear it
Hmm.
because it does show up. You will see it on TV sometimes. So like if I'm working for the UFC and I'm shooting over the octagon, we're supposed to be all in black. So I still wear a Rutgers hat. I just make sure it's a black one. But there are some places that are like, hey, we just can't have the logo on or something. So I'll just I just have to change the hat. Which whatever. It's not that big a deal, but I mean it's a little bit of a deal. But it's kind of been like my trading. It's like my trademark almost. Is that there's that guy at ringside with a Rutgers hat on. So yeah. Well,
We're gonna have to get you a Rutgers Alumni Association pin for those formal evenings so that someone will recognize you.
it's funny. I had one, and it was on my backpack, and the back of it, I had a Rutgers R with a little
Uh,
alumni, and they both broke. So I have one sitting like on a table out there, but it's the pin broke off the back.
well,
Yeah, it's funny. There's a guy in the athletic department. He runs donations and stuff. His name's Mike Greengarten, and
everyone knows Greeny.
okay, so he contacted me, and it was so funny. I was doing the Canelo Crawford fight that was on Netflix last, I don't know, September or something. And he saw me all over TV, and he hits me up on Instagram and says, "Dude, I see you all the time, man. We love the fact that you represent the university. It's so amazing seeing that Rutgers hat everywhere. But we're we're a Nike school now." And I'm like, "Mike, I understand we're a Nike school, but I couldn't find any fitted Nike hats. So I still had an Adidas one on." And he literally called me out for being off brand. And then I was down at a Rutgers football game, and he came up with a bag, and it had a bunch of like the Nike hats, and he's like, "Take these." So I was like, it was very funny. So now I'm on brands. Yeah, very
How
funny.
many hats have you gone through?
Someone asked me that the other day, and I was like, I have no idea. I mean, I've been shooting for, I wish I knew. I've been shooting for, my first fight was in 2002. So, we're looking at like 23 years. They probably don't last for more than, I mean, maybe 4 or 5 fights, just because shooting boxing and UFC ringside or cage side is not, it can be messy.
Hmm.
Um, Guys get cut, sweat's flying everywhere, blood's flying everywhere. So they get recycled relatively often, and you're running around like crazy, so you're sweating. And so I would guess that I sent someone a number the other day, but I would guess it has to be it has to be over 300 easy. Like I would figure I'd probably go through about 15 to 20 a year. So
15
yeah,
to 20 hats a year.
yeah, yeah.
So that's over a 20-year career.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's
That's
got to be over
that.
400 hats or so. Or
Oh my God,
yeah,
Scarlet Spirit must love you.
yeah.
Scarlet
Well,
Fever must
I
love
mean,
you.
seriously, yeah. Because I mean, the ones that Greeny gave me are the first ones I got from the school. So everything else I purchased. Yeah.
Now, we talk a lot about success. What are some challenges you've had to overcome as you kind of moved into this career?
So good question. I think the biggest challenge is they're different. Like you look at two things going for this. You have a lot of guys that are photographers that are staff guys, like at AP or staff guy at Getty or things like that. That's kind of like that's your job. You're on call with them. You get sent where they send you. You're salaried. so
Hmm.
you're safe. But like when you're freelance, you're always one client away from being out of work. Um, but by the same token, you get to pick and choose assignments. And a lot of people, well, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's great. You get to make your own schedule and you get to pick and choose clients." You never really want to say no to a client, um,
Hmm.
because you're afraid they're not going to call you again. So when you get established, it's a little bit easier, but in the beginning, you're taking everything you can get. So that becomes a challenge sometimes. And if you're not good at networking yourself or showing off your work, I was very quick to like jump on like creating a website, and like I think I was ahead of that as far as it went, because that's when I started. It was kind of just becoming a thing. I was also very
Hmm.
quick to like jump on Instagram and build my portfolio on Instagram and stuff. So that helped. Like I was always looking ahead and trying to plan how to market myself. So
Hmm.
that kind of helped. So, but that's always a challenge. So for instance, like HBO was a massive client of mine, and I worked for them for 13 years. But then all of a sudden they decided, yeah, we're done with boxing. And now all of a sudden I'm like, wow, okay, they're done with boxing. Well, that's a large portion of my income. So now what's
Hmm.
next? And I was lucky enough to pick up with a company called Matchroom Boxing, and I stayed with them for 6+ years. And then all of a sudden it's like they're going in a different direction. And I'm like, oh, what's next? And but I built up a clientele over the years. So it was easy to go, back to them and say, hey, look, I'm freelance again and I'm going to be doing this, this, and this. And like UFC was really quick to jump right back on and be like, oh, you're freelance again? This is fantastic. Do you have your passport? Yeah, sure. And they started sending me stuff last year. So I joined back up with them, and I'm a contractor with the UFC again. And it's great. And so that's well. The other big challenge is just I mean I touched on it real brief, but it's schedule. It's like,
Hmm.
sports are not the most ideal times when you have a family. Like, so it's not as tough now. My kids are older, so it's not nearly as tough. But when my kids were little, it's like you might go, you might have some kind of tournament, or you're on back-to-back fight weeks where you're going to Vegas for a week, and then from Vegas you're going straight to LA for a week, and like you're away for 2 weeks and you have little kids. So like, people would always be like, oh, it's got to be so hard like being away. And it is. Like you miss things in your kids' lives, or in your family's lives, or everyone's getting together one night and my wife's got to go alone, or like, because I'm not home. um
Hmm.
so I always say it's I mean, I'm out running around with professional athletes and shooting all these events and getting taken to places that, I'd probably never go to if I wasn't doing this. Um, she's at home working a job and raising the kids. So it was always harder on her,
Hmm.
than on me. And I realized that fact. I mean, so I would always make sure that I touted, it's not hard on me. It's actually, it's easier for me to work when I'm on the road than when I'm at home, because I can separate my family life. I can't separate my family life and my work life when I'm home. You
Hmm.
have to be cognizant, and you have to be part of it. But on the road, you're almost like there's nothing I can really do from LA. So, other than taking a phone call from my wife and listening to her at the end of the night. But like, so that's always the challenge. Or working holidays, or like, you know, um, I'm doing a basketball tournament on Martin Luther King Day this year. My wife's like, "Oh, I got a day off," and I'm like, "Oh, I just got booked to do basketball tournament at the Prudential Center." So like, you tend to have those challenges. I think I finally turned down. I got a call from ESPN to do a Knicks game on Christmas Day, and it's the first time I've really ever just been like, I'm not doing it, and I'm staying home this time. And I can tell you, 10 years ago, there would have been no question I would have been there on Christmas Day. I've worked. I
Hmm.
I think at one point I had worked. I had traveled with HBO. I think it was like 10 of 11 Thanksgivings in a row. I was flying out somewhere on Thanksgiving Day, like, and just not being with the family because we just always had a fight on Thanksgiving weekend. So those are the biggest challenges. Yeah,
It's not as much professional as it is just personal balance.
it is. Yeah, I think so. In this kind of industry, I think sports industry in general, it's a lot of nights and it's a lot of weekends. So
Makes
when
sense.
everyone else is off and looking to do stuff, you're generally working. And then, you have your days to yourself when really no one's around anyway. But yeah, it's kind of a reverse thing. It's that can be a little tougher. We try and balance it well, and we now that the kids are a little bit older, my wife will take a little time off of work, especially if I'm going someplace like really cool. She'll be like, "Oh, I'll come to that one." Like I did a fight in Monte Carlo, and she's like, all of a sudden she could magically just get off of work and go to that one. But if I were going somewhere else, it'd be like, no, I'm not available. But yeah, so that's that's always the challenge, balancing the work and personal life. Yeah.
So you mentioned the being on the sidelines for basketball and football and other sports. You mentioned the group chat with your old fraternity brothers. Are
Yeah.
there any other ways that you stay connected with Rutgers or come back to campus?
So my wife and I have had season tickets since we graduated for football. Most weekends these times the seats go empty. Or my wife is there with like some of her friends from. She has this big Rutgers group as well. It's crazy, and every other year, I'm so jealous of this actually because my fraternity brothers and stuff, we're just not nearly as organized. But every other year they do this trip where everyone just sends money to two of them, and they book the trip, and no one knows where they're going, and then they get an itinerary the night before, and they're told to meet at the airport. Here's when we're meeting at the airport, and they all show up. They're told what to pack for what type of climate and everything else, and what you need to bring, and they just show up at the airport and they just go off somewhere. And only two in the whole group. There's like I think 12 of them. Two in the whole group know it, and they just show up and go, and it's phenomenal. And me and my fraternity brothers are so jealous of it, but yet we're just none of us can get organized to do it. We have enough trouble. We did homecoming this year. We went to a football game, so I'm involved with football. Like I will always. My steadfast rule was I'll shoot any sport I can shoot except Rutgers. Like I don't want to shoot any Rutgers stuff because it's the one sport I can just go sit, enjoy, and be a fan. And then that slowly changed. Um, it was like back. I want to say there's a coach at Rutgers under Shiano, Scott Vallone.
Uh-huh.
He played from like 2000.
Offensive line.
Yeah, I think he's tight ends coach now. I
Okay.
could be wrong. He was a defensive tackle, I think, with Rutgers. But it was him, Eric Legrand. Um,
Veterans coach. Yep.
yeah, so it was him, Eric Legrand. They were boxing fans, and I was on HBO all the time wearing the Rutgers hat, and I got a message from one of them, and they're like, "You got to come down and shoot a Rutgers game." And so the team kind of invited me down, and I went down, and I was on the sideline, and a bunch of the guys came up to me, and I still see Scott at games, and him and Eric Legrand will actually we'll go to fights together, UFC or boxing, and I'll inevitably get a text when I'm ringside, and you know Scott and Eric will be like on the top of the first level in like the handicap seating, and
Uh-huh.
I'll look up and there they are, and they wave down to me, and like I'll see Scott on the sideline and stuff, and he'll text. He's a big UFC fan, so he'll text me like he was down in Nashville, and he texted me, "Do you know anyone I want to get into the weigh-in?" So I said, "Ask for this guy and whatnot," and yeah, so that's kind of how I went to my first Rutgers game to work it, and then USA Today hit me up for a game, and they're like, "Can you do this game?" And it was our anniversary is September 1st, so for like 3 or 4 straight years, the game around September 1st, they would credential me, but I would tell them I'll do it if you credential my wife, and my wife and I would spend our anniversary. We'd drive down to Rutgers, we'd go to Stuff Your Face, we'd eat a Stuff Your Face, and then we'd drive over to the game, and we'd both be on the field together, and she would be my assistant, and we spent like 4 anniversaries on the field together, which was pretty cool for like two people that met at Rutgers, and so we still go back. We still go back for football games. Yeah, a lot. So
What's the bully of choice?
I always go original. Like I totally get stuck in the whole original bully. She tries to jump around a little bit more, but I'm always an original bully guy. Yeah.
Oh no, I get it. It's like you have a bully that is different than the bully you always get, and it's never as good.
I think I just got stuck. I mean, I've tried other ones. I went chicken and broccoli one time, right? Like, but yeah, no, I'm always an original bully guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would get something else. Like I'd get the pulled pork bully, and I'd be like, this is good, but I want my pizza bully with pepperoni.
That's your choice? Yeah, okay.
That's my choice because there's always a chunk of pepperoni at the end that's so good. You know,
I
like
always
he
get
gets at the end with the doughy part.
when you get to the original, it's usually just bread and a little bit of like maybe an onion and pepper you get at the end. I'm surprised the pepper. You would think the pepperoni one would be the original boli though, because that's kind of like traditional stromboli. Yeah.
Uh, I wasn't around. My dad was actually in one of the ads for Stuff Your Face in the 80s,
Wow. Really?
and he was
That's
in the marching
crazy.
band. So if you look, they did a marching band ad, and the marching band marches out of Stuff Your Face, and there's a trumpet. He's like, I'm in there somewhere.
That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I love that place. But I mean, my brother takes his kids there. My brother went to Rutgers as well, so he takes his kids there, and like, it's kind of a thing. I mean, we just go back. I mean, I still go with some of my fraternity brothers before games. We'll go and pop in and stuff your face and have a couple beers, and then I mean, it's changed tremendously since I was there, and now it's more of a like it was never like when I was there. It was more like in the early '90s. It was a restaurant. It was more just a restaurant, and
Hmm.
now it's a bar, and they got the outdoor area, and but
It's an institution.
it's fantastic. I mean, it's part of Rutgers. Yeah.
So I know we're coming up on time. I've got three more questions for you.
Okay.
Uh, what for the first question is, what is something that people wouldn't normally think of or see when they think about, trying to get the perfect moment at a sporting event? What's something they wouldn't normally think of?
Um. So my big thing, like to me, I mean, it, moment is a good way to describe it. You want your photo. You want the photo to be able to tell a story. Like I think so. For instance, like if I were taking it in a box, sometimes like you might get or if you go NFL, like you might get a peak play guy reaching. Like I have this one of like Garrett Wilson one handed catch. Like it's a beautiful play. It's a beautiful photo. But sometimes the photo after is really what tells the story, like a celebration or like a jube shot or thing like that. I always want to tell like the story of it, but when you see a great photo, the one thing that people wouldn't realize is how hard it is to get that photo. And I'm not saying from a technical standpoint, but like what people don't realize when someone's working and looking for something, there's so many things that can go wrong, and there's so many possible angles, and there's so many people that get in your way. So, like in an NFL game, you're sitting here, but the TV cameras have the right to be in front of you. So they could come running through and ruin the shot. And then you have so many referees on the field. Like I have more shots of referees' backsides. I could do a book on referees' backsides that have ruined photos
That
because
would actually be pretty funny.
it like it would yeah an epic coffee table book of referees. I guess maybe their family members would buy it, but like it's just you have so many moving parts and other
Hmm.
players running around and things like that that for that perfect moment image, a lot of stuff has to really come together. That's kind of out of your control. I mean, live sports is like there's no do-overs, which I think is what draws me to it. I loved playing sports, so to shoot sports, if you miss it, you miss it. And it's like taking a shot in basketball or catching a pass and if you miss it, you miss it. Like you don't get a do-over at it. So that's what I love about sports photography. But there's so many challenges that outside of your realm of control that I don't think fans would understand. Yeah.
That's awesome. If for Rutgers alumni that are watching or reading this, where should we expect to see your hat next?
Uh where am I next?
Anything particularly
So
noticeable?
I have a couple NHL games the next couple. I have a Devils game tomorrow night. I have a Devils game on Saturday, but I am doing I'm lucky enough that I'm joining UFC next week for their first foray. Technically, it's TKO. TKO is the parent company of the UFC and the WWE. So I am the ringside photographer for the first UFC or Zuffa Boxing, as they're calling it, um, on the 23rd in Las Vegas. I will be wearing an all black hat though. And then the next night, I'm doing UFC 324, which is their first show on Paramount.
Uh,
And then the following week, I will be back in Vegas for the second Zuffa boxing. Um, so yeah, I'll be going a couple back and forth in the next couple weeks to Vegas to do their boxing shows. Those are my next ones, and then I've got a couple of UFCs down the pipeline. and a lot of NHL hockey coming up. And if you are a Jersey Devils fan, you will see the red hat on the glass in one of the corners. If you're looking for it, you'll see it. But Devils fans wear red generally, so it does tend to blend in. But I'm in a little Zamboni corner there all the time, and I do have the hat on. But yeah, I'll get a lot of people yell Rutgers at me and stuff like that. It's kind of cool. Like,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And then my last question for you is, what advice do you have for folks that might be interested in following your shoe steps?
Uh yeah, I think this is where my business side of things really helped out. It's networking. Don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to reach out. I get messages on Instagram all the time from young photographers like, "Oh, I follow your work. I love your work. How can I get started?" Um, I wish I could give you a foolproof answer for that. I told you my story. My story is really crazy and a lot of luck. But I think the best way is to reach out to photographers that you admire, um, or respect their work, and ask what you can do. Like, you know, we hire editors. There's nothing wrong with editing for a photographer. If you edit well for a photographer and you can learn from them, you may get the chance to shoot for them. Like, people ask me about my career. Oh, what are you proud of? What are you proud of? And I have a host of photographers that started as my assistant or editor that are now like one of my best friends. His name is Al Powers. He basically runs Las Vegas. He like shoots for the MGM Grand and all their sports. And I got him in with ESPN. He does tons of stuff for ESPN now. Um, like, he kind of got his start like rolling my bag into a thing and doing some editing for me. And now he's like I call him the king of Las Vegas. He's one of my best friends. I have another woman in LA who's killing it with ESPN and stuff now too. She's her name's Melina Pisano. She started as like an assistant with me. She reached out, and I put out an ad looking for an editor, and she reached out and answered it. And we worked together at Matchroom for 6 years. She worked as my assistant, like my second photographer, um, because she edited great. She had a fantastic personality, which is super important. Like, as much as talent is important, the ability to be easy to work with is just as important. Um, and I just think networking is the biggest thing you can do. Reach out to everyone possible, and don't be afraid to take small jobs. Like, everybody wants to shoot the Super Bowl. Like, everybody wants to shoot the Stanley Cup Finals, and I've done those. Sometimes I still shoot high school sports. Like, and I love shooting high school sports. Like, there's so many less challenges. You don't have to deal. I mean, you don't have to deal with cameras and this and that and all the crowded sidelines and people pushing and shoving. And it's just, you just go and shoot for the pure joy of shooting. Still get paid okay on it, and the kids love it. Like, there's so much joy behind it because they're just playing the game to play the game, and they love seeing their photos, and they're on Instagram posting the photos, and like, so don't be like, everybody wants to shoot at the top level, but don't be afraid to start here, because a
Hmm.
good photo, like, if you put a book in front of an editor, a good photo is a good photo. Doesn't matter whether it's shot here or it's shot at this level. That's what they're going to say. So network and just learn from other people. Yeah.
And I think you and I could talk for another couple of hours, like any good Jersey boys could. I really appreciate you taking the time. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.